Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. If this content resonates, please like and subscribe. My guest today is Michelle Norris. Some call her a healer, shadow worker, angelic channel, spiritual coach, or Sherpa. Her goal is to help you find your own truth and walk you into the most fulfilling life that is waiting for you. She can support you in creating ease to overcome challenges, and she promises one thing: you won't have to do it alone. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, why do people feel like they have to overcome their challenges alone? And I'm only asking because I'm one of them, or
Asking
used
for
to
a friend,
be.
asking for a friend. I got it.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like, burdening with other people with their problems or their challenges is something that it's part of our people pleasing. It's part of what we've been programmed to do is to not be a burden to others, that kind of thing. And so the thing is that we think we have to suffer alone. And honestly, suffering is an option. It's always optional. It's not necessary to have growth and to overcome challenges and difficulties and pain and it's a like I said, you don't have to do it alone because there's so many people that are would probably be willing to help. I know that's what I do. I love what I do, and I when I talk to my clients, I'm always like, just reach out to me whenever you need me. I'm really good at holding my own boundaries. Nobody has to do that for me. So if I'm not in a place to be able to support you, I'll let you know. And if I am, then you're giving me the opportunity to operate in my gifts and be able to support you because it's what I love doing. So that's the kind of thing. People don't want to bother others. And there's many times where my client will say, I was going to reach out to you, but I didn't want to bother you. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that I get to have the opportunity to do what I do and what I love to do, and when somebody reaches out to me. And so yeah,
Sure.
that's why you don't have to do it alone.
And I always think, oh, well, I should be able to do this. I should be able to handle this. Right? It's probably another one that you get, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people do think that reaching out for any kind of support, therapy, any of that type of support is a weakness, and actually it's a strength. When you can reach out and not put your ego in that place where you're like, oh, they're going to think badly of me, or people are going to think I'm really weak if I need to get support. The thing is, we're here in this human experience to support each other, to rock each other home, and that's really why I love what I do.
Awesome. You said something that caught my attention there earlier, that you don't have to suffer to grow for soul growth. We don't have to. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. We think that the only way to change and grow is through our suffering and through our challenges. And when in reality, that's all, suffering's always an option. You can always choose it. The thing is that there's a lot to be said for, suffering and what it brings you. And there's the contrast of the full suffering and then this amazing joy, right?
Mm.
The thing is that it doesn't have to be this pendulum wide swing of, extreme suffering and unhappiness and, depression and anxiety and whatever it is, to extreme joy. It doesn't have to be that. For you to be able to acknowledge joy in your life, you don't have to have the extreme. I mean, I will say in my life, I have had the extremes. And I feel like now I realize that I chose to suffer in a lot of that where it wasn't really necessary for me to suffer. I could have just moved through it and been supported to move through it and it not be a struggle. And one of my mentors used to always say, there's nothing enlightened about suffering for an enlightenment. So it's true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think that whatever it was, that you chose it prior to coming down here, prior to incarnating, or was it free will after you got here?
I think it's a little combination of both, because obviously the soul contracts that I had were pretty extreme. I had a father that abandoned me and my sister as a child,
Mm.
off and on throughout our lives. And then, I had a failed marriage, one failed marriage, and then I had a child pass away, and then my
Mm.
second marriage failed, and it was a catastrophic failing of everything because we were entangled with everything. We were in business together, our entire lives were together, so it was quite shocking. And so those were the soul contracts that I think I came in with. I think that you have the free will when you're making the pivotal choices, right? So when everything originally happened with my second ex-husband, when his infidelity came to light, I think I had a choice point at that time was choose myself and choose self-love and choose trust in the process and leave and be done. I didn't. I went into fear instead, and this entire identity crisis of, okay, if I'm not his wife and we don't do these businesses together, who am I? And it was a complete loss across the board of my whole identity, everything that, and we were together for 24 years. And so it was massive crisis. So, like I said, I think you get these choice points in all of that to, choose which way you're going to handle whatever this soul contract that you agreed to. How are you going to handle it? Are you going to fight and be in fear, or are you going to trust the process and let go? And I fought and I was in fear, and then I finally trusted the process. And once I finally trusted the process, it was super easy to let go. And and the thing is that it didn't take long. It was only a matter of a couple of months, but it took a long time to heal from it all, to go through all the process of, because it took me back into abandonment issues that I had dealt with for, some years before with my father. And then it was just all of the different things of, we play victim in a lot of places, and I coach people to stay out of that drama triangle where you're a victim, you have a villain, and you need a savior or a victor. And but I went into it because that was part of the choice, I guess, that I decided to make. That my soul needed that part of the evolution for me to realize I was never a victim. I chose this. I chose him to play the role that he played. I chose her, um,
Other party.
the other party, the third party. I chose her to play that role, and I'm like super grateful for all of it now. It was one of the most painful things I've ever been through in my life, and I am who I am now because of all of it. So when my daughter passed, not long before she passed, she and I would talk about this thing called beauty in the ashes. And this is really what this is about, is finding all the beauty in the ashes of your life. And I've said before, I would never in a million years choose that my daughter would pass, but I can't deny all the beauty that came from her ashes. And, it was a catalyst for us creating Pillow Effects because it was her legacy, for our book, for the work that I do now. All of it was all of these things. And so when you can start going in and finding the beauty, the knowledge, the wisdom, the clarity, the truth from the situations that are challenging in your life, this is where you find the beauty in the ashes, and you understand that everything always happens for you. It never happens to you. And when you can start looking at everything like that, you can stay in a very centered place. Now, there's very little that triggers me, very little that upsets me.
Yeah.
I'm super happy, and I know who I am, and so that's why I'm not triggered by most things anymore, because I realize that everything is not about me. And going through all of the different challenges in my life have shown me that all of these things, the whole affair, all of it, our divorce, wasn't really about me. It didn't have anything to do with me. But I made it about me when I went into fear and anxiety and worry because of the identity situation.
Sure.
At the end of the day, this was the soul path that was chosen. And when I finally came to terms with that I was fighting for somebody that no longer existed, that person was no longer who I was actually in love with or married to. And then after that, it became a lot easier. It didn't, to move on took a little time, but it was, and wanting to make sure I was completely healed before I moved on and started dating was a process. And I'm super grateful for that too.
Yeah. How interesting that the way you're saying that so many good things came out of all these horrible things, and maybe that's the duality that you came down for.
Exactly, exactly. So it's so funny too because it was there was the the way that I am as a shaman now at this point and a coach is completely different than it was whenever I was doing this work with my ex-husband. I'm a completely different person. I have a completely different perspective about a lot of things now too. I also couldn't, I had a lot of compassion and empathy for people who had anxiety, but I had no experience with it in my life. So I didn't understand it. I couldn't really relate to it because I didn't know what was happening in their body until I had it happen. And when I went into anxiety for the first time in my life, when everything was happening and everything was falling apart, I finally understood and I got it. I was like, oh, this is probably one of the, there's sadness and grief and all of those things. And those I'm familiar with having, had the loss in my life. However, I had never had the anxiety. And when I did, I finally got it. And it was so I have a different perspective and can understand where people are coming from when they have that. And it's actually, in my opinion, anxiety is way worse than depression because there feels like in depression, you feel like there's some things you can do about it. You can sleep, you can cry, you can eat, you can do all of these things a little bit more. With anxiety. There's no control in your body of what's happening and what it feels like. And
Kind of
and so I
paralyzed. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, you want to be numb because it's so uncomfortable. At least for me, my experience of anxiety was complete discomfort in my skin. Like I didn't feel like me. And that's a scary thing. And
Very
so
uncomfortable.
yeah, now I have a completely different perspective. So I think I'm a completely different type of shaman and coach because of the fact that I have been through this. And I think that was part of my soul's evolution. And like I said, I'm grateful for all of it. It was painful. It was challenging. It was not pleasant to go through, but knowing where I am now and where I've been and how I got here, I would go through it again. I would not, I wouldn't even choose to just walk away and let go. I would still choose to take the route that I took because it just gave me so much more experience and understanding and that I can relate and hold a lot of compassion and empathy for my clients for.
And that's all of those things is what brought you to your coaching practice today as it is. And you wouldn't want to be practicing it any other way, right?
No, absolutely not. I'm
Yeah.
great. Like I said, I'm super grateful for all of it.
Do,
Yeah.
what tools do you use? You mentioned you're a shaman, and I don't know what the definition of that would be.
Well, I am a Sherpa. What I'm referred to as a Sherpa because I enter the same, if we're going into an expanded consciousness space, then I enter it with them. So I am partaking with any substance that my clients are taking. Mainly for me to be in the energy, I don't have to take a whole lot to be in the same place that they are in, but it's because I can guide them a little bit better if I'm in the same energy. Not all shamans do that, but I am one of those that does. I find that it gives me a different perspective with when we're in that space and being also in the neuroplasticity with a client makes it a lot easier to create new neural pathways with them.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a master NLP practitioner and trainer. I've been trained in quantum time technique, in past life regression, certified in a number of different hypnosis. Um, in German New Medicine and a number of different healing modalities and energy work, as well as I'm trained in Huna, which is magic. A lot of people look at it and they think it's like Reiki. It looks similar to that, but it's from the Kahuna tribe in Hawaii. So
Oh, I just wrote down quantum time technique because I never heard of that.
it's actually an NLP protocol. Um, so it's when we take somebody back into their timeline and we find out what was the reason something happened in their life, what was the wisdom, the knowledge, the clarity, the truth from it, the beauty and the ashes. And we go back, and then once they know the reason, they can generally let go of the negative emotion that's around it because we're kind of rewriting the story. And so, and it changes somebody's timeline all the way into the future. So I don't know if I haven't looked at the science on this since 2019, and I probably need to, but they scientifically, at that point in time, they had proven that a generational trauma could be passed down at least eight generations. I think it's far more than that. And once you clear that trauma, it no longer gets passed to generations. So if we can go into somebody's trauma, and even if it wasn't theirs, and that is part of quantum time technique, is taking them. We can take them into generational trauma or past life trauma that
Mhm.
that comes through, which is part of the soul's evolution. Is that we can go and change that story, and it changes it and ends the generational trauma moving forward for future generations. Um, and when I say that they've proven it, so they proved it in mice, like that they had some kind of PTSD, some type of trauma that happened to them. And then all the mice for eight generations had the same response to this the very first time that they ever were. They said had the same trauma response that the original mouse that was originally traumatized before it had babies, that it was its original response, and they all responded and they never had experienced it. It
Wow.
was the Yeah, so that's how they were able to prove it. That's really like generalizing it. There's a lot more to it
I'm
than that.
sure, but that's very interesting.
It is extremely interesting. So, yeah, so it's really helpful for people to be able to release that.
Is all of the depression and the anxiety and everything, is it all a result of trauma when it comes right down to it?
Yes. So I'm trained in German New Medicine, and German New Medicine is the science and the theory that all disease and disorder in the body can be traced back to a trauma that wasn't fully felt, realized, acknowledged, or expressed. And so we have an innate trauma release system that has been programmed out of us. We don't use it because for us, emotions and the way that we've looked at them, particularly in Western society, is that they're very inconvenient, they're inappropriate, and they make people uncomfortable. So, right away, when children are little and they fall down and they get hurt and they start crying and throwing a fit, the first thing we do is we put our hands on the child, tell them to stop crying, tell them they're going to be okay, all of that, and we stop their innate trauma release system. So if you see, we're like every other mammal on the planet. So if you watched a gazelle running on the savannah and it starts getting chased down by a cheetah, as soon as that gazelle knows that it's safe from that cheetah, if it gets away, it's going to throw itself down and shake to release the trauma and the adrenaline from the system. We don't do that, so it gets trapped. And so it's one of the reasons why we will always say your issues are in your tissues, because you've now packed it in. It's why we have lots of people with a lot of excess weight. It's because a lot of trauma that they have not been able to express. It's why we see a lot of diseases of modernity in addition to the fact that we have really poor nutrition, especially in the United States. So when you pet your dog, have you ever noticed that your dog walks away and shakes? It's because you've put energy into their system that's overloaded their system, and they need to release it, because otherwise it becomes a trauma that's trapped in their body and what have you. So they will do that. In fact, I always like make a big point of really getting my dogs, and then as soon as they shake, I'm like, good, I did my job,
Right.
because that's a system that none of them have programmed out because they don't have logical minds that say, oh, throwing a temper tantrum and shaking and writhing on the floor is inappropriate and inconvenient and embarrassing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
exactly.
it's part of the process. So parents, if you have children, please do not stop them from releasing trauma from their body. They will thank you in their later life when they don't have lots of disease and disorder in their body.
Exactly.
They
I
will
had
not.
um I had a guest on the show and a client actually who specializes exactly in the shaking
The trauma
idea.
release exercise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's part of some of the work that I do. We do that,
Oh,
and
awesome.
mhm. Go ahead.
No, I was just that just came to my mind because when you said about the shaking, because if the doctor that created the exercise
Yeah,
system noticed that the kids in wartime
yeah.
were shaking, and so yeah,
And
but
they
the
were.
adults weren't, of course.
Yeah, the adults were, very stoic, keeping very quiet and calm. So, and the children were shaking and terrified when they were in the bomb shelters. And then what they noticed is he noticed is that the children were fine and running around and playing once they were out of the bomb shelters, and the parents were completely frazzled. So yeah, that's when he realized, oh, we have the same system, and then he created the program for. And
Exactly.
I don't know why his name is escaping me right now.
Bercelli, Dr.
Yeah,
Bercelli.
that's right. Oh, yeah. My ex actually trained with him and went and was one of his demo people
Oh,
for
is that right?
shops. Yes, so we used his program for TRE, and
Awesome.
I still do. So yeah.
Fantastic. So what about physical issues? Also goes right back to trauma?
Yeah, any disease and disorder in the body can be traced back to that. I've got a book on it that basically when I have a client that I'm doing their onboarding, I'll look and see what are some of the things that they've been diagnosed with, and go look. And it's usually, there are different conflicts in the body, and usually anytime that you have any kind of symptomology or whatever, you're actually in a healing crisis, in a healing phase. So different things can come up, and you could actually already be in the healing phase of it. And if you let it continue through and don't try to stop it or hinder the healing phase, because a lot of times we do that because we think, having a high temperature or any of those things, sometimes we stop that stuff when in reality that's your body's way of getting rid of it. So we have a lot of different ways of being able to release trauma from the body, mostly through these systems. So yeah,
So, but what if you break your arm or something? Is that
yeah. So even accidents are they're still part of general conflicts. So in 2019, I was going through a big process with PaleoFX at that time and trying to determine what I was going to do because I was moving into a different phase. I was the CEO and founder and pretty much handled the majority of the stuff that we did at PillowFX. And I knew that I needed to step out of it. And so I was in a process of trying to find someone to replace me. But it was also meaning me stepping into a new role. And so my ex and I were actually hiking one day, and we were at Enchanted Rock, which is just outside of Austin. And as we were coming down the rock, my foot slid, and I broke my right ankle. And when we looked at it, it was basically me not wanting to. So depending on whether you're left or right-handed, you would be called, if you're right-handed, you would be normally organized. Some left-handed people are normally organized, but a lot of them are reverse organized. So my left side of my body is my feminine, my right side of my body is my masculine, and anything masculine is about action. Anything feminine is about receiving and allowing, right? And so it was me not wanting to step into this new role that I was supposed to be stepping
how
in.
interesting? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, even things like that can come up and be they can come up and happen because this is the way that it's going to end up ultimately presenting itself in the conflict. So yes.
Did you have to rid yourself of it so that that wouldn't happen again? Or
Well, what happened is once I realized this is what was going on, it was literally about figuring out how I wanted to do this, and that it was going to be a lot easier than I thought that it was going to be. And then, of course, 2020 hit, and all hell broke loose, and so it didn't matter ultimately. So it was a broken ankle for no reason because, the city of Boston decided, we're just not going to let you have that event. And I was like, all right, so I don't need anybody working for me. Don't need her.
exactly.
I was like, all
All the
right.
problems disappeared.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I still had a broken ankle, but
Right. You mentioned nutrition, and that's something that from talking to a lot of people on this podcast, I've come to the conclusion that it's a lot more important than you might think because it sort of lays the groundwork in a way.
oh, absolutely. So this is the thing. At the end of the day, so many people are all concerned with their genetics, and in reality, genetics are just a tool. They're just a marker for you to understand what you may have predilections for, right? And it's your epigenetics that matter. That's what matters. So I have the gene allele, it's APOE34, which is the early onset. I have a higher 30% higher risk of early onset Alzheimer's. Now, because I understand what that gene allele means, and I also understand how to keep that gene allele from turning on or expressing itself, my epigenetics are what's really important. So this was kind of funny, actually, because actually my ex has the same allele. And here we are. They called us the king and queen of paleo. And we technically could not actually eat pure paleo, which was a lot of saturated fats, because the saturated fats would actually express that gene. So we had to go to a monounsaturated fat type of diet, which was more of a modified Mediterranean keto diet. And so it's kind of interesting, but because we knew this, because we knew that those alleles were there, and we obviously would like for those to not express themselves, we're doing the things in our epigenetics, which is the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we exercise, the way we take care of ourselves, what we put in our on our bodies, in our homes, what we're all the stuff that's when you clean your home, all of it, it all matters, because in the United States, there's 168 ingredients that are banned in every single country except ours. Every single country. And women, on average, put 72 different products on their bodies per day. And the majority of those, usually 80%, is toxic. And so we're constantly bombarding our systems with these toxic things. So these are all the things that actually can all accumulate and everything to create disease and disorder in your body. And so it's really important for you to really watch your nutrition, what you're eating. The best way to just watch what you're eating, the best way to eat is by testing what feels good in your body, what makes you feel energized, all of that stuff, but is only shopping the outer perimeter of the grocery store, which is all where all the natural whole foods are. So if you're eating only natural whole foods and you only go down the aisles for your paper products and your whatever, and then, occasional canned goods or occasional frozen vegetables or whatever, that's fine. And then we, in paleo and primal, where we are gluten free, because gluten in this country is not the same as over in Italy or in Europe or in France or in any of those countries. They have a completely different type of wheat than we do. We have what we call red dwarf wheat here, and it is it's been hybridized for it to grow extremely fast and for it to be like, I can't remember what the percentage is. I want to say it's like 40-50% more gluten in it than our European part. It might actually, I think that's higher. It's actually higher than that. And the thing is that your body just can't process that. So most people who think that they have different types of stomach issues or whatever when they eat, remove gluten, and I pretty much guarantee you your life and your stomach, your digestive issues are probably going to go away because they did for me. Once I took gluten out of my diet in 3 weeks, like IBS, chronic fatigue syndrome. I had been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. It was a false diagnosis. It was gluten. And then trying to think, there was two other diagnoses, and then also a really weird low back pain that I didn't really notice that I had until it was gone. And then I was like, wow, my back doesn't hurt. And I was like, huh. And it was literally 3 weeks after I stopped eating gluten and started eating a paleo primal diet. And it was incredible what it did for my, and I just dropped all the excess weight that I was carrying from, eating a lot of refined carbohydrates because I'm a trained chef. And at that time, my specialty was Italian and I made my own pizza dough and my own pasta. So I was eating a lot of it. I was cooked all the time and I cooked, fresh homemade meals, but it was a lot of refined
But you
carbohydrate.
were using the flour and stuff from the US, so
Yeah,
it had all the extra gluten in it.
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, how how does one discover if one has an epigenetic predilection to something like you did?
You're talking about your genetic. So epigenetics is how you live your life. Your genetics is what's in your DNA. So you just have a DNA test. I highly recommend if you're going to get a DNA test that it be done through DNA company. Do not go through 23andMe or any of some of the other ones because they actually sell your results and you're in their system for good. And unfortunately, 23andMe launched at PaleoFX, and we had no idea what they were doing, but none of us really understood a lot of that stuff until it was too late because we in the fine print we gave them permission to sell our information and to control it. And so I
Oh,
would highly recommend DNA Company. They're amazing, and they also do coaching around what all of your DNA strands and alleles mean and how it will affect you, and if you need to make changes to your diet, to your type of exercise. This is the thing. There's some people that, most people really should not be doing any type of steady state cardio. It's not good for our systems. But there are some people that are actually that actually works for them. There's only a small amount of people that actually works for and that doesn't do damage to their cardiovascular system. So knowing that would be really great, especially if you're somebody that is like a jogger or anything like that, or does a lot of that type of steady state cardio. So
right, right. Wow, did not know. I'm shocked
yeah,
of
so
some of
yeah,
this stuff.
A company is a great company, and like I said, they have good coaches, and they're really they don't sell your information. It's just an amazing company.
Yeah, you kind of sell your soul with
Yeah,
those other
yeah,
ones,
yeah,
don't
you
you?
did. We did. It was, I can't even remember the name of the other companies because we were given free DNA kits, being the owners
Hmm.
of PaleoFX. And so, we sent them all in because, hey, what if something comes back in a different one they're not the same or whatever? They all came back fairly close to each other. But, we gave, our permission to
Yeah,
basically, unfortunately, we
yeah.
didn't,
Check the
unfortunately,
box.
yeah. Yeah.
Without naming any names or anything, what can give me an example of somebody that you've helped that has really stuck in your mind, or what lights you up?
Oh boy. Whew. I mean, I've had so
So
many.
many.
I've had so many people on the brink of suicide, and to bring somebody back from that is, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how rewarding that is. How many times that I can get somebody to the space where they really understand. So, um, I did have one client that this was a really interesting situation. Was he had been suffering with something that happened. for 16 years. And he came in to work with actually it was me and my ex, and he came to work with us. And he was also had dialed in his diet, his exercise, all of that, but he was still carrying about 50 pounds extra. And when he came in and did the work with us, there was this point where after he had released the trauma and everything and kind of got the, like this said, it's the wisdom, the clarity, the knowledge, the truth from it, the beauty in the ashes. And he asked, how do I keep this feeling? I feel so happy. I haven't felt like this in 16 years. And I said, well, you choose it. And he said, what? And I said, you choose it. You choose to be happy. And he was like, couldn't you have told me that like 3 weeks ago? And I said, would you have believed me? And he goes, no. And I said, until you got here and felt this possibility, this was completely out of your ability to even think that it could happen. So yeah, you're here. And he used to tease us all the time and say, y'all have the most boring job in the world. And I would say I have one of the most amazing jobs in the world, because to bring somebody back, and then he lost all that weight very quickly, and changed his life. And so, but to, a number of people that have been close to suicide brought them back from that. And now they're just completely different people, you know, have amazing will to live and know that they have a purpose. And I mean, we all have a purpose here. And it can, when you get into a hole that deep that feels super confining and you're trapped, and that there's no other way out, but to take yourself out, that's a really difficult place to be in. And the other thing is, in what I do, there's literally zero judgment for any of it, because at the end of the day, I completely understand somebody's desire to be done here and not continue on. This place can be really daunting, and when you look around at some of the things that are going on this planet right now, and particularly since 2020, it can be, you can understand how people can get really depressed
Down.
and
Mhm.
very dissociated and detached from connection to anybody else, and feel very isolated and alone. And so
Yeah.
it's yeah, that's probably one of the most rewarding, that's probably some of the most rewarding work that I've done. And then lots of people with addictive behaviors, with cocaine, crack, meth, heroin, alcohol, um, to be able to do that work with them, and for them to, you know, no longer have these addictive behaviors. Because I think that, like AA is an amazing organization. It really does work for a lot of people. However, I'm not of the belief that once an alcoholic or once an addict, always an addict. I think it's an addictive behavior. And once you clear that trauma and the reason why the coping mechanism was chosen, and what was happening at that time, and what like I said, the beauty in the ashes. When you find out what that root cause was, um, they no longer have the reason to engage in the addictive behavior. It just,
Hmm.
most people, they just never do it again. It just doesn't come up for them again. So it's a really, and a lot of the work that I do, it clears out any kind of craving for it in a lot
Right.
of ways. It doesn't work for every person. So far, I'm batting 1,000 with it, but it doesn't work for every single person. And it also is, the person coming in really needs to trust and believe the process. So
Yeah. Do
yeah, that's
you,
very rewarding.
that is beautiful. That's awesome. Um, do you do so you do any group sessions, or is it all one to one?
I do small groups, and privates, and couples, and I also do business partners.
Business
So
partners. Okay.
yeah, surprisingly, business partners sometimes need this kind of work.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So Any age, any gender,
Yeah, I'm gonna say that we're gonna be, this is gonna be an 18 and over thing.
yeah, 18 and over, yeah.
Now, I can do work without without being in an expanded awareness space with someone that's younger. It's probably best for me to work with somebody that's teen years, that's going to have a little bit more comprehension of some of the stuff that I'm going to talk to them about, and where I'm going to lead them. Um, yeah.
Sure. Um, so your company is the Primal Alchemy, correct?
Actually, the Primal Alchemy Sovereignty Church now.
Sovereignty Church. Okay. Do you have what's your plan for the Primal Alchemy Sovereignty Church for the future? How do you
Uh,
envision, what's your vision for it?
so I am working on a program that I will be able to offer to people that are not otherwise financially able to work with me, so that we can offer a program that works for them. Because I'm a big believer. So this was one of the things with like Paleo Effects. People wondered why we kept our ticket pricing low at Paleo Effects, and I never wanted there to be a barrier to entry for somebody to come and be able to change their life. And I feel the same way in this work that I do. So I'm working on that program moving forward, and I am working on the Beauty in the Ashes program as well. But um,
Okay,
those are the two things that I'm like most excited about right now.
beautiful. And what message would you like to leave the audience with?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Best piece of advice I have ever received in my whole life, and is still the best piece of advice, is anyone's opinion of you is none of your business. Don't make it yours.
Love that.
It's not. I mean, because at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in perception is projection. So anything that I am perceiving in another person is something that's within me. And whether I like it or I don't like it, it's still within me. And if I don't like it, it's something that I need to work on changing in me, not you. So,
Anyone's opinion of you is none of your business,
right.
actually. I'm writing that down on Post-it note.
Yeah. It's literally one of my, I mean, it's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given.
It's awesome. Where can people get hold of you to set up
Um,
a talk?
Actually, you know what? I will send you my link. They can do a 15-minute, it's called a quantum edge assessment. And they'll have a 15-minute consultation with me, and I'll give them 3 action steps that they can take by the time we get off the phone for whatever issue is most pressing for them. But I will send you the link for that. Because
Yes,
honestly, I don't know it off the top of my head.
it's
A
okay.
lot of stuff.
We'll get it into the description box. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here, Michelle. This has been an awesome talk.
Oh,
Loved
thank
having it.
you. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. And my name is Bev Young, and I am a web designer and digital marketing consultant. I help spiritual and heart-centered entrepreneurs get maximum credibility and visibility online with websites they love and that work. See you next time. Bye for now.